we had a member of the society get her workplace, which is a local grocery store that has a florist in it, to donate their expired Phalaenopsis. These are all no ID plants. Some of them are still in bloom, as you can see, and she donated them, and I think we'll probably give these to new members who join us next month at our show. The issue between now and next month, which is about 4 weeks away, is that someone has to babysit them. And so I am babysitting all these phals for the next 4 weeks, and I'm gonna clean some of them up. And I thought when I did that, I would go through them and share what I found so that we could recognize some common problems with Phalaenopsis. So I won't be saving all the Phalaenopsis from this. The leaves on this look pretty good, but see, if you look in the center of this phal, you can see it's black. It has crown rot. And so basically, it might throw a basal kiki, but this one will never ever grow a new leaf out the top again. And you know, for something that we want to give away to a new member, this is just too hard for them. And so I'm going to turn this into compost. All right, this phal right here has the soft looking leaves, and if you touch it, they're floppy, and you can see the wrinkles in them. But if you look here at the roots, the arrow roots look pretty good that I can see. The roots on the side here look pretty good. So I'm going to assume that at the store, as this went out of bloom, or maybe it's going out of bloom because of the lack of water, is that basically at the store they didn't water it. They didn't water it for a long time. And so I'm going to just try to recover this one by watering it for the next few days, or actually just probably once a week. It's in moss, and it's probably not going to need to be watered more than once, but I'm going to water it and see if it just recovers. All right, here's another Phalaenopsis that looks really dry. You can see it, it's even more wrinkled than the first one I showed you. It has wet moss in its pot, but you know, it's really dry looking. So because of how the moss is, it's hard to tell in this one if the roots are okay. So let's dig down and have a look so we can see if it's worth even trying to salvage this. So the first roots that I'm finding right here are just crap. This is like crap roots. Stick. So far, the roots here don't look great. You can pull it out and have a look. This root is not fat, it's actually very papery. Let's see. Yeah, oh, that's bark, not actually a root nub. I don't even know what that is. Oh, that's a dead root. Dead root. Okay, so it looks like this one, none of the roots are very, there's a little bit of solid root right here. It says firm. You see, I can't squish it. I don't like this one where I go squish it right down. This plant looks like it's dying because it has no live roots, or very few, not enough to sustain the amount of leaf area that it has, which would explain why it's so terribly face. These are all dead roots. Look at that. That's dead. Not useful. You know, if an orchid, if a Phalaenopsis has dead roots, but it still has live roots, sometimes I leave them just to help with supporting the plant in the pot. But I mean, they're not contributing anything here, except, you know, maybe like anchorage. Let's have a look at this side. moss is very tightly packed on this. I think this one, the moss is packed tight enough that this plant is basically just suffocated to death. Let's see. Well, that's a live root. This is dead. That's dead. This is alive. So it has, okay, so here's its live root, which is about an inch. It has 3 tiny little roots, about an inch each, that are alive, and everything else is dead. So this one could be recovered. I can trim it off and see if it will survive. It will certainly not be well enough for us to give to someone who's a new member next month, because this one will have a lot of recovery time needed. So now that I have all the moss off of this, you can really see that it has very little in the way of live roots. If someone owned this plant in our society, I would say, hey, this plant is probably $9.99 at your nearest Home Depot. Go get yourself another one. But sometimes it's fun to try to salvage these, so I'm going to trim off all the dead roots, and then I'm going to cut the stems off so that the plant can spend as much energy as possible making new roots. I would want to put it in a very moist environment, very high humidity, because that will encourage it to make roots. You can do that 2 ways. You can go with that water culture technique, I'm sure lots of people know about, where you stick it in a glass of water with some of the roots submerged. Or you can, I usually prefer to just stick it in sphagnum moss, very lightly packed so it can breathe. So the spag is just keeping the humidity there, but not preventing airflow. I have to see if I have anything suitable to try the water culture technique, because then that'll be fun, because you'll be able to watch the roots form over time. So one of the other things that I've read that you can do is making stem props without using kiki paste. So I had to take the stems, which are still green, and they have some unbloomed nodes on them where kikis could form, and you put them in a vase. It needs to be taller than the stems are long, and I happen to have a really, really tall vase that I bought a few years ago for one of my displays. And what you do is you put water at the bottom, you're going to put your stems inside, and you're going to wrap moss around the stem to help keep the humidity up. And then you seal the top with saran wrap. And I'm not sure how long it will take for the stem prop to take, so I'm going to try it since I have the vase sitting here, and I will report back whether I got any kikis or not. Okay, so here's that sad Phalaenopsis. It's had all its dead roots chopped off. I found actually this is a candle holder, but it's glass, so I can see the roots, and I have put a little water at the bottom here so you can see. I'm not submerging the whole thing. I just want to have some of the roots in the water, and you know, I've got a nice sort of narrow top to this, so that's going to keep the humidity up, and hopefully that'll encourage it to grow new roots from the base of the plant. So here's what it looks like now, and we'll see if it takes it. I am not doing a full water culture. I'm not giving this fertilizer. This is just a way to keep the humidity up. So yeah, I will report back if it survives, but it's pretty sad. So here's a phal that was dehydrated. You can see the wrinkles, but see how the leaves are holding themselves up? It's rehydrating. So what I would suspect happened with this one, since it has viable roots, is that it didn't get watered at the store for a while and started looking sad, but then once it was donated to the Orchid Society, the person who picked them up watered these, and then it's recovering. So it's got some nice flowers on it. I will trim it to make it look nicer, and hopefully I can keep what it has alive, and it will make a very nice bonus for a new member who joins us. So here we have a Phalaenopsis with one live stem and one stem that is clearly senescing. I would probably cut this one all the way down to the bottom, because it looks like it's senescing down the entire length. And I just wanted to note it has some decorative Spanish moss on it. This Spanish moss is not alive. So if you look right here, there are no hints of green, and live Spanish moss has hints of green. So dead Spanish moss, and then this right here is live Spanish moss. And so you can see that I have hints of green in my live moss that is being hidden by my nocturnal leaf. So this Phalaenopsis right here has a terminal stem, or a terminal spike as it's called. So if you look right here, there's a spike coming out the top of the Phalaenopsis, and it's not going to put any more leaves out of the crown as a result. This is like the root rot, or the crown rot Phalaenopsis. It's basically done growing up. It's pretty healthy actually, so you'll probably get it to spike again. I have actually a Phalaenopsis with a terminal spike, and it blooms all the time. It's probably blooming its little heart out. And since I dug that one out of the trash, I have no problems with that terminal spike, because when it's done blooming and it doesn't ever want to bloom again, I will just put it back in the trash. But right now, this one right here, unless it puts out a basil kiki, it's basically doomed to die at some point. So I guess it's another one where I'm not going to give it to a new member. They're not going to understand that, possibly, unless they're a really experienced grower. It's another plant that if someone who's watching this video and you live in the Chicago area and you really want it, I would be happy to give it to you. So on this Phalaenopsis, you can see it has a bent stem. But if you look at the flowers, they are still firm, which means that the xylem and the phloem have not broken in the stem yet, and they're still functional. So I'm going to try to salvage this by putting in a taller stake, and hoping that that will stabilize the stem. I'm going to put a taller stake in and basically clip it above the break and below the break to make it nice and firm, and hopefully that then we'll be able to keep this alive for someone to enjoy next month, if they should join the society and become a new member. So in going through the boxes, it looks like many of these Phalaenopsis are really dry. I mean, a lot of the leaves are showing very limp, and this one in particular, if you look at it, the roots look dead, but actually when I pinch them, they're still firm. So really these roots are just very desiccated. So I'm going to stop this video here. I think that we have seen all the problems that these Phalaenopsis will present, and I hope you learned something from this video.